If some of you have wrist pain, elbow pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, all these things, she's the one you should consult and have a treatment. Actually, she's working in both the Adventist Hospital in the Stubbs Road, but also we have a medical center in Causeway Bay. You know Hang Lung Center. Hang Lung Center, we have a Adventist Medical Center there, and then there's also a physiotherapy treatment in that area. It will be cheaper if you are thinking about not going up to the hospital. You can go to the medical center. So she's very, very good in doing all these treatment for hand pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, all kinds of pain. We do a lot of this work, heavy work, ironing. You're going to have all these problems. That's why today we have this talk. And then the talk will be, after that there will be a question and answer. You can, if you have some special question relating to physiotherapy, relating to that, you can help you. So you can always remember to ask at the end of the talk. So with this, I welcome Jocelyn Tam.
Thank you, Dr. Ho, for that wonderful introduction. It's good to be here this morning, and hopefully I'll be able to give you some information on what you can do to help yourselves. And, you know, we're always at the medical centre where you can call for an appointment, if you like. Okay, so what is manual handling? Lots of people ask this question. Well, manual handling is moving items, lifting them, lowering, carrying or pushing items. And I think every single day you must be doing that type of thing, you know, lifting groceries, pushing babies or children, even ironing, you're sort of pushing the iron. So you do lots of manual handling every day. A common cause of sort of lifting incorrectly or doing manual handling techniques incorrectly is back pain, and that's what the first slide is showing. Okay, so this is just going to show you underneath the back and the neck what sort of structures we have, the anatomy a little bit, so that you can see, you know, some people might complain of like tingling down the arms. Well, it's often due to sort of something touching the nerve here. It could be due to that. So if you sort of move incorrectly or lift incorrectly, you can sometimes get a little bit of swelling around that area. The swelling can just touch the nerve and cause sort of tingling down your arms. Then you have all the muscles over here going down, you know, right from the neck all the way down the back. And it's important for you to sort of like strengthen your muscles because it helps prevent injury. So often, if you're lifting something incorrectly or pushing incorrectly or just doing a repetitive movement like changing nappies in every day, in and out, then you can sort of like get a small tear of the muscle here. And what happens is you get a tiny little bit of bleeding going into the muscle, and that results in swelling of the muscle, pain, and then you get sort of like tightness of the muscles, aching, really tight and stiffness, and that's the muscle spasm. And what's that telling you? It's telling you to be careful. It's telling you to sort of rest and watch how you move. Okay, the other reason people often get back pain is from posture. So people who are on the computer a lot, sitting incorrectly, slumped, or even sort of, lots of people use the telephone nowadays, writing messages. And when you're sort of like, you're looking down all the time at your telephone, that's an awful lot of pressure on the back of your neck. And actually, you know, when you're sort of looking down, if your neck's not straight, then your back is starting to bend as well. And that increases the pressure on all those sensitive structures like the discs in your back and, you know, can create pain. So do watch your posture. Try to, if you're sending messages, bring the telephone up to eye level rather than bending down, okay? And I know lots of people have, me included, guilty of doing that. You have to keep reminding yourself. Okay, so in the spine, you've got three natural curves. You've got the cervical area, which is basically the neck, and you have a natural curve there, and then you'll have another curve in the other direction, which is the thoracic curve, which is sort of like the upper back, and then the lumbar area, the lower back. Lots of people get back pain in the lower back because it's biomechanically, you have sort of like a stiff region, which is the sacrum area, and then you have a mobile region, which is the lumbar area. Bending forwards, you need your back to area, even in sort of so that's where you're likely to have problems, so you've got to be extra careful. So, as I say, the common cause of injuries at work is bad posture, body mechanics. What are body mechanics? Body mechanics are your sort of posture when you're moving. So when you're reaching forward, you're more susceptible. What does that mean? It means you look to see that's quite difficult. So what to lift it from the floor to like desk height, and then from desk height you can get somebody, sort of hand you the object while you're on the steps so that you're not reaching too high. Because when you're reaching above your head, what tends to happen is people arch their back. So the weight of the object is sort of leaning right back, and then that makes it, that's you're most susceptible to injuring yourself. So like when you go home, back to the Philippines, if you carry a lot of luggage, some people, have too much luggage. And then you carry a lot of hand luggage onto the plane, and you've got to put it in that overhead hold-all. If you're not very tall, that's another sort of hazard, lifting up and trying to put it in there. So you're better off putting it into, if you've got one bag, then put a few little carrier bags in that bag. So when you get past the immigration, you can put it into two bags and make it lighter for yourself. And then you can sort of step onto the seat and put it in, rather than trying to lift one big heavy bag, put it in that overhead holder. So it's sort of like what risk management is like thinking ahead of how can you make this easier for yourself? How can you reduce the risk of injury? I mean, the other thing to do is sort of like, as I say, eliminating the risk. So that would be one way, putting it into two smaller bags. The other way is to sort of make sure that the surface you're going to put the object onto is clear. There's enough space to put the object there. So it's all that sort of like thinking beforehand, thinking before you lift, will save a lot of injuries to either shoulder, back, neck, other areas. Okay? So try to think ahead. So when you're lifting something, for body mechanics, if the object is further away from your body, then it takes a lot more effort, muscular effort, than if it's close to your body. That's the reason why when you're lifting, you've got to bring the object really close to your body, because it reduces the weight. Okay? And again, this is sort of like using levers. So this person is bending over, has a poor lifting technique, and the taller you are, or the taller your body, the longer the lever. So you put in a lot more, doubling the weight of the object or even tripling it because of the length of the lever. Shoulders as well as your back, okay? And as I said before, if you're lifting something from above your head, you need to, before you lift, pull your stomach in. Make sure you're not arching backwards, because that's going to protect your back. So just tighten your stomach muscles, pull them in. Brace is sort of like bracing yourself before you lift, okay? And get as close to the object as you possibly can. So you need to get on a chair here or step ladders. Move the object, test the weight a little bit to make sure it's not too heavy. Because if it's very heavy, you might need another person to help you. Okay, back injuries and childcare. So I'm sure you're sort of like, some of you might be looking after children. So you've got to be careful about, when you go out. I know sometimes you don't have control, but if you're looking after children during the day, try not to carry too many things with you. Some people carry huge big bags for babies or children with about 10 nappies, 3 creams and things like that. So just try to minimise that. Just take 1 or 2 nappies, when you're going out. If you're not going out for long, just take 1 nappy, so that your bag that you're carrying with you is not so heavy, because you're pushing that weight. And again, when you're pushing something, try to pull your stomach in and watch your posture as you're doing it. Children, try to get them to, like some children want to, they're crying and they want to cuddle. So the best thing to do is, if you're at home, sit down on a chair and ask the child to climb onto your lap rather than picking the child up. Because in that way you're sort of like training the child as well. You're training them to be more physically active. You're getting them stronger. And at the same time, you're protecting your back because you're not lifting them up from the floor. Okay? So try to persuade them to do that. Again, try, some children are sort of like, try to calm children down a little bit rather than, because sometimes they get overexcited and they're sort of running and jumping, and then suddenly, if they jump onto you, then you can injure yourself. So try to sort of like settle the children down a bit. And as I said, with the nappy changing, it's good if you can have it at sort of like hip level, to get a lot of people change their nappies on the floor. Well, it's good, you can get a sort of like a board, and you can change the baby's nappy at sort of hip level, and then it saves you from bending down all the time. You just got to make sure you have all the equipment ready before you start, nappy cream, everything else, so that you're not leaving the baby, you're holding the baby as you're changing the nappy, but at the same time it saves you from doing a lot of bending. Or if you have to change on the floor, then try to kneel down rather than sort of like bending your back. So again, this is all about sort of, if you're lifting an object, you need to get as close to the object, make sure you've got a good grip on the object, have your feet apart so that you're well balanced, pull your stomach in, lift slowly and gradually and avoid twisting. So here you are, holding the baby nice and tightly, closely. And this, again, this is with babies. Try to have the, I don't think in Hong Kong I've seen changing tables with steps, with the ladders that the babies can climb up onto. But, they have some changing tables or just a chest of drawers, that you can put the changing mat onto. And then it saves your back a lot. And here we are, trying to make children taller. In the UK, what we have is something called reins, so we don't hold the baby's hand. We have sort of like equipment. We have reins with a belt type of thing, so we hold them and they're strapped in so that you don't have to keep bending your back, when you're walking with them. But I don't know whether that's very popular in Hong Kong. And depends on the employer, I think, for that. When you're making beds, try to sort of like bend your knees rather than bending your back. So don't be bending your back, bend your knees whenever possible so that you're saving your back. Every time you bend your knees, you're saving your back. Think like that. If you're using hoovering, some people hoover, and they sort of really bend their back forwards. They're sort of doing this type of thing. Don't do that. Try to sort of keep your back nice and straight and walk, as if you're sort of like dancing with the hoover rather than bending your back forwards. And that again, every time you do that, every time you change your body mechanics, you're saving yourself from injury. Okay, if you're in the kitchen, make sure there's sort of the pan handle is facing inwards, not outwards, so that, it's easy sometimes when you're cooking to, the pan lid might, you might accidentally knock it and it falls and causes a burn, okay? And make sure the children are not around there. So this is just a child who's burnt his hand and they're putting the burn under the tap water. So again, it's sort of like you need to put your hand under cold water if you've burnt it, okay? And go and see a doctor. Wrist pain. A lot of you, from what Dr. Ho said, have wrist pain. So actually you can get a wrist splint, which you can use, which will, when your wrist is very painful, usually when it's painful, if you injured it, it's quite weak. So it's good to have a wrist splint, and in fact they're not very expensive. So it's good to have the splint on while you're in acute pain. But what you need to do afterwards, when the acute pain goes a bit, you need to strengthen up the forearm muscles to prevent it happening again. Because if you don't, because every time you injure your wrist, the muscles get quite weak on your forearm, and so you're more prone to re-injury if you don't strengthen up. Okay? Okay, what carpal tunnel syndrome? Some people have sort of like tingling down the forearm, down the hand. Sometimes it's because of wrist, they've had an injury to the wrist, and so you get the sort of nerve affected in the wrist. So just make sure you're not sleeping with your wrist in this position. Some people sort of sleep curled up. Is sort of like improve your posture, watch the way your body mechanics, watch the way you move, and stretch. So he's these are a few sort of like stretches you can do yourself in the chair, okay? Other things you can do, back strengthening exercises. And this sort of like, this is Mackenzie exercises. People often do this exercise. People who do a lot of bending forward, which is, most of us are sort of like doing activities where we're bending forward, we're pushing, or we're leaning over the cooking stove. So what they'd normally do to prevent injuries, they do something like lift as well if you haven't got that C curve. So some people have like very tight muscles at the back of their legs, and one way to stretch out the muscles at the back of the leg is doing this exercise here. This is just for the front of your legs. Stretching your bottom, doing a calf stretch. I mean, it's important to keep your legs strong as well, because remember, it's your legs you're using while you're lifting, okay? So if you sort of do regular walking exercises, then it helps. Okay, a couple of stretches on the back. And then these are strengthening. Lots of, sort of in Hong Kong, there's lots of areas where you can go. Sometimes you can go hiking, and there's like nice streams that are free of charge you can go into, different pools. Or you can go into the sea if you know how to swim. Or, there's the public swimming pools where you can sort of do walking exercises in the water, swinging your arms, swinging your legs. And that's quite soothing as well, exercises in the water. Swimming is great for strengthening the whole body. That's it. That's what you will need to be, physically fit. Fit for work. Okay? So we'll finish there. Any questions? Any questions? Anybody like to ask me any questions? Okay.
That my thumb is very painful. Yeah, for the first 1 month, I suffered this until now. So how can I eliminate this pain?
Right.
This one.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I hold the baby like that, and
right.
my one hand is working.
While
working, and then one hand is holding the baby.
Right.
Yeah.
I think.
The
I think the position, you need to get your thumb closer to the rest of your fingers when you're holding the baby. Try to, I don't know whether yeah, that's a common area to have thumb pain.
When I walk in the morning, this morning, it's a very severe pain.
Right.
Early in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, with tendon injuries, you feel it early in the morning before it's warmed up, before you've started moving. Yeah. And then as you're moving, it gets better. So I think the first thing you need to do is to sort of like try to, maybe you can persuade your employers to get a baby sling so that you're not actually, if you've got to work at the same time as looking after the baby, that you can, strap the baby, put the baby in a baby sling, and then you've got 2 hands free. You're not always having to hold the baby with one hand, because anyway, it's not that safe if you're holding the baby with one hand and you're, trying to do something else at the same time. The other thing is to, I don't know whether you can sort of like put the baby in the cot, while they're, or if they've got like a stroller, like a pram, put the baby in there instead of carrying the baby all the time. So that type of thing would reduce your likelihood of continuing to injure your thumb. There's actually thumb splints you can get as well. that go around the wrist and the thumb to give the thumb a rest. So you could get one of those. That's another thing you could do. You can try, as I say, you can try doing if you've had it quite a while, you can do the heat treatment, or you can do like hot and cold. Some people like to do 5 minutes warm water, 2 minutes cold water with, water with ice cubicles in it, then back to the warm water and then into the cold water, and they do that for about 20 minutes, back and forth, and it stimulates the circulation. So you could do that. You could do massage. So there's lots of things you can do, and I think you really need to talk to your employer and see what sort of solutions you could come up with, to make it safe for you and the baby. Yeah. Okay.
I'm taking care of twins,
All
and I
right.
have slight scoliosis.
Uh-huh.
And it always bothers me, especially because every night I always hand washing.
Ah.
Hand washing every night, and I carry heavy bags because the twins are 5 years old. I
Right.
have to carry some of
5
their-
years old.
5 years old. And I have to carry some of their books and everything with my backpack.
Right.
Every night I always have this pain
Mm.
in the back,
Mm.
and I cannot avoid to carry everything.
Right. Nowadays they've got some backpacks for children with wheels on. Yeah, like a shopping trolley type of thing. And, it's good, actually, to give the children themselves, like, 1 or 2 books to make them responsible. Because if they're 5 years old, they should be looking after some of their own things. But I understand if the employer doesn't agree with that, I totally understand your position. But maybe you can sort of instead of using a backpack, use the shopping trolley. You've got to hold both of them. Okay. So, could you get them to sort of each of them to... have you got a belt or something that you wear, trousers? You can ask them to hold on to your belt. Well, no, like a leather belt, and then...
They are very naughty.
Yeah. Right. That's quite difficult then. Yeah, you can. There's lots of exercises actually for sort of people who've got scoliosis specifically. The other thing is to strengthen your back. I think earlier in one of the slides there was some back exercises. Let me see, that you could do to strengthen your back. Here, see some of these. Strengthen your back, strengthen your stomach muscles, and that should help. Yeah, but.
And then they said she had mild scoliosis, which we can see the back of her, the hair on her back have already occurred.
Right.
Now I want to ask if this kind of exercising, the other things we are to keep on doing on him, and then there is a problem because of her difficulty of breathing.
Right.
He loves to play soccer. Athletes, he loves to play tennis.
Right.
But it seems sometimes it's like he becomes very tired. He is gasping.
Right.
That is the one thing we cannot discover. What is really make him gasping when he is breathing?
It depends on the sort of sometimes if you're not fit enough, physically fit enough, then, if the exercise is very hard, like if you run very hard and you're not used to running, then you'll be gasping as you're running.
Actually, when he was 2 years old, he already playing soccer.
Right.
Until now, I think he's very physically fit.
If it, right.
Only now, I think it's last February, we already, she came from some examination on the heart and on the chest, but they didn't see anything. Only they said one of the physiotherapy of clinicians said we have a slightly scoliosis, so we need some exercise. But still, when we having some, suddenly before it lasts, and suddenly we have a gasping again.
I'm not really sure. I think you need to sort of consult the doctor on that. Yeah. But we have for scoliosis. People with scoliosis, we have Pilates. We do Pilates where it's like a one-on-one session. So we have actually scoliosis is a very common problem in children and sort of like teenagers and children. And so they do these special exercises with the special equipment. And it's usually like one physiotherapist to two children or two adults, and they do that for quite a long time, and then each session is 1 hour, and usually they get quite a lot better with that. Yeah.
My second question is about the painful on the knee. Why usually we have sometimes it comes on my knee and it's very painful. That is suddenly. What is the best exercise we can do for the knee? And then sometimes they said, some said you have to do for the knee because sometimes there's a jelly. That's what is the jelly they talking about for the knee?
The jelly, I think they're talking about the jelly inside your knee. You've got, it's called cartilage. It's like a shock-absorbing material that it goes between the two bones, and you've got like cartilage, so that when you're bending, when you're moving, twisting, it's like a shock absorber. So sometimes, knee pain, it could be the kneecap that's causing you pain, or it could be, the knee joint. I'm not sure in your case, why it's suddenly, what's happening in your case. But a lot of people, if they want to strengthen up their muscles in the thighs, okay? So what they do is they do sort of like lunges, which is... So you keep your knee and your ankle should be 90 degrees. Your knee should not be over the front of your foot when you do it, okay? Because then it's too much pressure on your knee. But a lot of people do that type of thing, or they do slides against the wall. So they put the back. The last question here, because I think...
Sometimes my problem with my knee sometimes twists.
Your knee twists.
Until I hold the knee bones.
Yes.
In the middle, until I slowly to put it back in the middle. So my feet comes like that. Twist.
You twist.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Now it's okay.
Now it's.
Yeah, because I do my own self when I was in the ladder, But I'm so lucky because just only 2 steps. And then my knees twist like that.
All right.
So the bones go in the side.
Right.
And then I think the bones in my knee, and then I put slowly below.
Right. Yeah, I mean, again, I think if if you have stronger muscles, then it will save a lot of problems. I think I'll have to wrap that up today because we've got another speaker coming and we're running a little bit late. Okay, thank you very much for listening to the talk.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the National Church, I'd like to give you a souvenir. I'd like to just a nice talk, isn't it? Do you all learn something? Okay, very good. Actually, there's a lot of exercise you need to practice. I hope that you have time to teach you, really demonstrate.
how to do the exercise. But I suppose you can go up to the internet. I mean, see some of this back strength. You can go to the internet, isn't it? The back strengthening exercise, strengthen your knee, and all these exercise. I mean, practice it, not just listen and then forget about it. So we're very thankful. Jocelyn can be here with us, and just a small token appreciation.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
I have here a bag. Somebody missed your purse. The name is Balbiki Maritis Aurelio. You just know now that you lost. Okay, all right. I hope none of you lost anything. Now we like to have Miranda. She's a nurse, and she like to.
This is if you sometimes if you accompany your some friends of your or your family members to the hospital, and they will do all these 4 things in the emergency room. So if these 4 things are okay, then you're alive. So I'm sure all of you here, you're alive. Okay. And then, the temperature shows how well is our immune system. You know, recently these years we have all these MERS or viruses around in the world. The first thing they check is what? Your temperature. So it's important that we learn how to check our body temperature, even though we are not checking today. But I'm sure this is some very common health skills that all of us, especially ladies, should know. And then our breathing. Just now we have our physiotherapist, Jocelyn, to teach her how to stand well. And this breathing is important. Kind of pressure. Resistance to the blood flow, and that makes the blood pressure reading. And some factors will affect the resistance of the arteries, which are the whether your arteries is elastic or not, is the walls are smooth or not, and also whether the blood is liquid, enough liquid or not. So there's some reason like why our arteries are less elastic. Maybe it's because of aging. We cannot avoid this. And less smoothness of the artery maybe come from, some blood fat plaques, right? And that's why it blocks the flow. And then less liquidity of the blood may come from too much content of the salt, oil, and sugar in the bloodstream. And that's why our blood will become thick. So when our blood flow is salty, it will thicken the blood. Well, this is the yellow light, 120 to 139. And then the diastolic is 80/89. And then the stage 1, you can see that the number is getting up. So you check your own. But if your reading is normal, you won't see Dr. Ho or myself. If your reading is in pre-hypertension or hypertension stage 1 and 2, then you will get to come and visit us. Okay, and the next one. Okay, now some of the symptoms of hypertension. That headache is very common, and you become lightheadedness, some ringing in your ear, and maybe some you may not see things clearly, or you have some fainting episodes. This is some symptoms of the hypertension. And then the next one, you will see some other complications of hypertension. So that's why we are so, every year we have this health fair to check your blood pressures to make sure that you will not get all these complications, okay? Right. Okay, another one is about some of these things. So dietary and lifestyle changes can improve blood pressure control and decrease the risk of health complications. But if this is, but at the same time, you need to check your blood pressure as well as you need to go to see the doctor. And if all these things will help you to control, to manage your blood pressure. Okay? Is there anyone among us we have hypertension here? Not many. Okay. Okay. The next one is about white sugar. What's this? White sugar, and then, Anybody here we like congee? Porridge. You like, huh? Yeah. Unfortunately, the medical professions find that if you like congee, that's more likely to give you high blood sugar level because. You like congee, huh? And also, anybody among us, we like soft drink during summer times. None of you, so you are lucky. You are healthy. Of the complications of the diabetes patient, it will affect their eyes, their breathing. Sometimes diabetes patients will have a kind of breath that you can smell, right? And it will affect your brain, things like that. Okay, some of the readings here, maybe we can have a look. So today when you check your blood sugar level, I would like to know how many of you have already done your blood sugar level this morning. So the rest have not done. Not yet. So please go to have your blood test first before your lunch. Otherwise, you will all come to see Dr. Ho and myself. We love to see you, but not because of your blood sugar level. Okay, so this is the normal range is less than 6, and then 2 hours later it should be less than 7.8 something. So if your range is higher than this, then you are more likely you are already diabetes. Okay, and then here is not so bad, but it's still like the yellow light is on. Okay. Now normally, if we eat like this is breakfast time, and this is what? This is lunch time, and this is supper time. And if our food is so rich and so sweet and so refined, then our blood sugar level will shoot up like that. Eat your vegetable and fruits with the skin on to increase the fiber content in your diet. So that will prevent your blood sugar level to shoot up like this. And here is the complications. If you have diabetes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. From the top to your feet. Very bad. And diabetes is such a concern from, in the world, from the whole, the World Health Organization, because in the world, even though developing countries, they don't eat well, but they still develop a diabetes. So we need to be cautious about this. And here it says, besides insulin injection and hypoglycemic drugs to lower your blood sugar level, lifestyle factors can also help lower your blood sugar level as well. Dietary fiber and walking exercise after a meal acts like insulin to lower your blood sugar level after meals. So, you know what is insulin injection? Anybody have seen it before? One. Do you need to help your, in your, like maybe your boss to do this? Level when the blood sugar level is so high and you go to see the doctor, the first thing they give you, that drug is with this name, hyperglycemic drugs. And there are different kinds of these drugs, and you need to stick to the schedule. Okay. Now the last thing we would like to talk about our body weight. According to the World Health Organization, that our BMI, you have this in our health check today. If our BMI is greater or equal to 25, that means we are overweight. If our body mass index is greater or equal to 30, that means we are obese already. Okay. Right. So we need to remember, if you are overweight, then what can we do? So you have a good chance to lose your weight and keep your weight within normal. And if you are obese, you still have a chance, but it will take longer. Okay. So we all have hope. Right. Now, here is how they calculate the body mass index. So it's a very scientific way to help us to understand the ratio between our height and our body weight. Yeah. Of his relatives to come to us. Like the first one is hypertension. The number 2 is type 2 diabetes. And then what's this one? Something. The blood sugar level, the blood has a lot of fat, cholesterol, right? And then this one is what? Cancer, and then what? Oh, we are not happy anymore. And then what else? Yeah, heart disease, and then what's that one? Yes. And then liver disease, right? So this is the what? We call it, in a gang. In a gang, this is the main person that we need to siege or to catch. So don't let this person get into our lives. Don't let it index. It's a more neutral or, it will give you a general idea whether you are obese or not. But if you have body fat percentage measurement in different parts of your body, then you will know, that certain part of my body has stored a lot of fat and I need to be careful. Okay? All right? Say, for example, if the center...
We have today, we have a dentist, also from Hong Kong Adventist Hospital, Dr. Sam Ho. Dr. Sam Ho has been working a long time in England before he came back to Hong Kong 2 years ago, around 2 years ago, and been working in the Adventist Hospital as a dentist, taking care of all your teeth, caries teeth, broken teeth, or whatever. So today he's going to give us a talk about, I don't know whether you know about the term, periodontal disease. Whether you know it's something to do with your gum and to do with your teeth and all the surrounding tissues. So let us welcome Dr. Ho.
Hello. Hi. Good afternoon. I hope you all have a lovely lunch. The price of the lunch is during this lecture. I hope it's not too boring for you. Okay. Today's lecture is about gum disease, as you can see from there, on this National Day of Hong Kong, public bank holiday. Let's move on. Okay. Gum disease, as you probably know, because you haven't well and you don't look after the teeth very well. This is a true case. I will tell you the story of this case after. Luckily, the guy is okay now, but at the time, he's almost touch and go. Okay, it's a real case. It happened about 2 months ago in Hong Kong Adventist Hospital. people realize that you really have to look after the teeth. Otherwise, it's not only you lose your teeth, you wear dentures, and on top of that, you could even lose your life. Okay. So this is for quite a long time. What I noticed, people with not very good teeth, usually the general health do suffer. Okay. I found this out about 15, 20 years ago. There's no evidence there. So it's only from experience tell me that people usually have bad gums, usually have general health is not that good. So so it's not scientific evidence at the time, but now things change because we have more evidence. Okay, so it's more than anecdotal evidence there. Okay. The case that I'd like you to share with me is I know this patient, I treated him as a dentist. He's my patient. He got some really bad teeth and he lose some teeth and in the process of making a denture. And unfortunately, in the middle of the treatment, his family called me saying that the guy has had a heart attack all of a sudden. So it comes as a surprise to make the gum loose, teeth loose, and basically there's no going back for some people. So all started with when we scrape our teeth, even though after we brush it, we do get plaque. These days we call biofilm. Basically it's the same thing. Okay, so it all started from there. So no matter how good we brush our teeth, we always have bacteria in the mouth. Also other microbes, fungus and virus and all sorts of microorganisms in the mouth, no matter how hard we try. So let's move on. So that we call biofilm. So what is it then? As I explained to you before. So mainly for some people who don't brush their teeth very well, mainly from food debris. Okay, when food debris left inside the mouth, what happens is there's bacteria working on them and break them down and cause a lot of toxins and all sorts of things inside it. One thing that we should know is resistant to antibiotics. Okay. So for gum disease, sometimes we have trouble treating them because antibiotics doesn't work very well on them. If you do get an occasional flare or infection, the antibiotics will work. But if you don't physically remove the plaque, the calculus, the problem is antibiotics don't work on you. So especially for deep-seated pockets, people have pockets in the gum disease. They usually have a lot of antibiotic resistance bacteria. People have, and then usually there's what we call gram-negative bacteria. So it's resistant to different type of antibiotics. And the other thing that we should know is plaque do form in dentures or even braces if you have braces. Denture is when you lost a teeth, you make a false teeth. So we have dentures. So unfortunately, dentures is very good to look at, and functionally they're okay. Unfortunately, they harbor a lot of bacteria, a lot of microbes. So, if you do wear dentures, people should look after the denture as well. Make sure you brush plaque away, and definitely I can soak it in disinfectant to kill some germs. For someone who say that look after some elderly people, so I think it's more important because in America they have evidence showing that MRSA, the antibiotic resistant bacteria, actually transmit more in nursery homes, elderly homes. So when all these people look after them, so the denture all together, it makes them all up to disinfect it. So, and then there's everyone's catching everyone's disease. Okay, let's move on. When we have plaque or biofilm, we increase the bacterial loading. So these are the effects. So it affects on the cellular level. Usually, whenever we brush our teeth, bacteria do go into the blood, called bacteremia. So for most of the time, I think 99% of it, people is okay because the body can deal with it. But if you have a lot of the plaque or biofilm in the mouth, and you don't look after it, there's increased bacteria going into the bloodstream. So that's when the problems start. And on the cellular level, so there's a lot of stuff leak out from the cells, make the cells more leaky. So let's move on. But this is the same guy that hasn't brushed the teeth for 10 years. Scaling, hasn't seen dentist. Okay. So there's a lot of substance in the biofilm that causes a lot of aggregation of platelets. Okay, and then when that forms, there's fatty cells, and then the cholesterol acid deposits in the blood vessels away from the mouth. So the biofilm in the gum is like a reservoir of disease. So they cause a lot of cellular level changes, so that it leaks out elsewhere into the rest of the body. For gum disease, there are some factors that I think we should know. One is smoking, as you probably know. Smoking and gum disease, they don't. It's very difficult to treat. People who smoke more, they are more chance to get gum disease. And then because of smoking, you get the nicotine in the body actually narrow the blood vessels. So it increases the blood flow to the area. For people with gum disease, if they smoke, they actually look quite pale. And there's a lot of bleeding. So people think there's no bleeding, so they haven't got gum disease. It's not true. So all because of smoke does the damage to it. The other thing that have caused problem is stress, aging. So people get older, they have more problem. And then certain race do have more gum disease. Like I think the Africans, South Asians like Bangladesh, people like on that ethnic group, they have more chance to get gum disease because if you're a man. So here, you're quite safe. Okay, so on the systemic level, systemic disease, how do we get that? So because of deposits of different materials in the blood vessels, you get the furs, as they call it, inside the blood vessels. So you get more chance to get cardiovascular disease, heart attack, stroke, and the other thing is when the bacteria travel into the heart, it can either cause pneumonia or sometimes it cause endocarditis, which is destroying the heart valves. So some pictures, so make things a lot worse. So diabetic. So as I mentioned before, so you must have a very good blood sugar control. Because if it's poorly controlled, then you have a lot of other problems come with it. Okay, smoking again, we repeat it here. So the wound healing will be delayed, and then there's the white blood cells that fight infection is less. It's not so good. After smoking can be very expensive, so probably it's a good idea to cut down your smoking. Okay. The other effect that I think people should know is now there is evidence showing that with gum disease, that for younger people, For men, the fertility do reduce. And then for lady, they have less chance to get a baby. So that can be a bit worrying. So looking after the teeth is important if you want to have a family. So the other thing that when the baby is born, people do have premature. When the lady got pregnant, they have premature birth, and the baby, when they're born, they have a low birth rate. So they can have quite lingering ethics. You really need to look after yourself a lot more. And make sure you take the right medications. And for people which is immunocompromised, like they're on long-term sickness, taking some heart problem or things like that, so really need to look after themselves. For geriatric care, so people wearing dentures, mainly, they need to look after the teeth and the denture. So there are different types of gum disease, as you can see. Some are not too bad, just a bit bleeding. Obviously, some are more long-term, some are more aggressive, some are general, and then some are localized. Okay, so there's different types, so I think we should all realize it, to know it. So how do we find out gum disease? Usually you just look at it, usually to see whether you look after the teeth very well, any deposit there, any inflammation, red, swollen gum, bleeding gum, and then teeth started to move. And then the teeth started to sort of move all over the place. So it's true. Sometimes for people with gum disease, they take the denture out for a little.
Hello. I just want to ask, Doctor, because I've been having a problem with my last teeth.
The wisdom tooth? Wisdom tooth? Yeah.
Yeah, wisdom tooth. The last one here is wiggling already. And I've been ignoring it, but this week I cannot ignore it anymore. It's become too painful. And I cannot... I asked my employers help, even if half for the payment, because I've read in our contract that if there is a dental problem, emergency problem, the employers will pay. But I asked them for help, and I told them even half only. That's why I want to ask you at the Adventist Hospital if how much takes.
How much?
Pulling the teeth.
I think if you ask the employer to get the insurance policy out, have a look at it to see whether what is covered, what is not covered. For what's covered usually is quite limited, but I think if you have a bad tooth needs extracting, I think they should cover it. The employer usually cover part of it. They have to pay the whole lot first, and then the insurance will pay part of it. So you really need to ask the employer to get the insurance policy out and have a look in the small words. Make sure you read them out. Okay? So, it can be done, but obviously you need to work hard to push the employer to look into the policy, to pay the money first. Yeah.
Thank you, Pastor. I don't know.
Right. I think that's about all. In a professional setting, I cannot say I recommend salt. I think if you've got toothpaste, get the toothpaste. If not, then salt probably is a good alternative. Yeah.
Another question is sugar good or bad for your teeth?
Sugar usually bad for the teeth. I usually tell my patient that if you do have sweets, best is after the meal. after your main meal. So, and then if you ask me what sort of sweets best, probably chocolate is better than other sweets. So I would recommend people have chocolate and enjoy it.
Of course, just
Proper way, I usually tell the patient always start from the gum. For top teeth, brush it down.
brushing your teeth rightly, correctly, and you have any problem, go to Dr. Sam Ho.
Thank you.
Let us join hands, thank him.